Think about it. How often do we take a moment to reflect on the value of our freedom and who's fighting to ensure it? I'm Wendy Brockman. Our city was just honored with the prestigious Proud to be an American Award, meaning we are a city full of exceptional programs to promote Americanism and honor our veterans. Let's meet some of them. Dateline Aurora starts right now. November is often the time of year to reflect on the price of freedom. With Veterans Day celebrations, it's a perfect time to give thanks to those currently serving and those who served in the past. Joining me is Rick Crandall. He is the president of the Colorado Freedom Memorial, host of the Breakfast Club on KEZW Radio, and a vital part of our community, if I may say so.
Thanks.
You were also just chosen as Colorado Broadcaster of the Year.
Yay, how about that?
Congrats.
Just because I'm the oldest guy in the room.
Talk about your experience with veterans and where this passion comes from.
You know, I was in the Air Force 6 years, but I've been at KEZW 23 years now. And about 20 years ago, a Pearl Harbor survivor came in and told his story, along with 6 people that were there with him. And listening to them recount what had happened all those years ago and seeing it unfold in their eyes, it was something I felt like I've got to share this story as long as I can.
You did a broadcast, your radio show, from the American Cemetery at Omaha Beach in France. What was that like?
Sat in a tool shed on top of 2 bags of fertilizer.
A tool shed?
Tool shed.
Okay.
That was the only thing they had at the time. They got great facilities there now. But I could look out through the window and I could see the crosses and the stars of David, and I could see to the English Channel. And it captured me there. I've been back many times since. But there's 88 Coloradans buried there, and I thought they're so far away from home, how could we bring them back, right? And so the Colorado Freedom Memorial actually was born out of that experience.
That was your inspiration right there.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, we're going to introduce our viewers to 4 veterans who live in Aurora. They are all members of the city's Veterans Affairs Commission and dedicated to sharing the concerns of veterans, from transportation all the way to employment. Yeah,
let's meet Beatrice Bruno. She's got a great personal story of success and determination.
One day in Aiken, South Carolina, I was walking down the street and I came upon the Army recruiting station. And on the sign at the time was, "Be all that you can be." And so I stood there looking at the sign, and this big, tall, white guy, I didn't know his rank at the time. Now I know he was a master sergeant. And he came out and he said, "Young lady, can I help you?" And I said, "Sure. Would the Army take someone like me?" And he said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "Well, I have a child. I'm single, I'm young. Would the Army take me?" And he said, "Absolutely." On March the 9th, 1977, that began my journey as a United States soldier. It's something I've never regretted. It's something, if I could, I'd do it all over again. Two of my greatest assignments were when I was stationed in Germany with the United States Army and Europe 33rd Army Band and Chorus. I was a singing soldier. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men and women who died, I added that gave their life for me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And that has become, I don't know, my mantra, because I do love the United States. And I think that if a person has a chance to serve this great country, they should do it. And I'm so glad I did. I served for 15 years in the Army on active duty. We had gone to Berlin, and we were given the opportunity of going behind the wall. It was really heart-wrenching because these were people that were so much in bondage. And as American soldiers, that's the freedom we were fighting for. We were fighting for people to be free like that. When the wall came down, the excitement of everyone, because people were free. The Army gave me so many different opportunities to excel. And that's what, to me, that's what the military is all about. When you put this uniform on, when you have United States Army on your chest, that gives you a certain amount of pride to let people know that you're serving something much bigger than yourself. We teach discipline. We teach a word that we call esprit de corps, which is unity. We teach can do instead of can't. There's a saying, and I don't know who started it, but we're the land of the free because of the brave. And we have to remember that someone gave their life so that this country could remain free. We should honor our veterans because it's the right thing to do. We should honor them because not everybody can do what we did. It's just as simple as that.
It's just as simple as that.
Simple as that.
You met her.
I did meet her. I know Beatrice. I was with her recently, as a matter of fact. She definitely is a drill sergeant. She commands a room when she's in a room.
I would listen to her.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. And you know, that's part of that whole military experience, why people go in. Maybe you need some discipline in your life. It certainly gives you great confidence and gives you a feeling of being in charge of situations, right? And it serves people well in other careers that they pursue after.
She initially didn't think she'd be right for the
Yeah.
Army. Who is right for the military?
You know, who is? That's a great question. You could say, well, anybody. No, not anybody,
No.
really. It's somebody, you've got to be able to take direction. That's certainly
Yes.
part of it. You've got to be able to commit yourself to a common goal and a mission and see it through to its completion. But, you know, for those that haven't been in, it's really hard to explain it perfectly what it is about it, but it's a unique experience.
Well, now let's meet Robert Yett. He joined the military in the 1950s, just after World War II.
Yeah, he's traveled the world and he's got a lot of life lessons to share with us.
Well, I've been around the world about 3 times, in both Pacific and Atlantic. I started out as a National Guardsman while I was in high school. Joined the Navy in July of '54. My very first ship was the aircraft carrier Shangri-La. And we went to the Philippines and the islands and Japan and places of that nature. My next ship was the Champlain, which was also an aircraft carrier. My last ship was the USS Meredith, which was a destroyer off the coast of Vietnam. Being a sailor, I found that everybody in the world is exactly the same, especially the parents. They all want their kids to grow up to be nice and strong and healthy, as we did. I helped a farmer in the Philippines deliver a cow because he didn't know how. And we picked rice in Japan because to me that was more exciting. And they showed a different side of the military because we were there to help and not to injure. And I was sent to Holy Loch, Scotland to help build a floating dry dock there. And that to me was probably the best duty I ever had. And I liked the people because the people were fantastic. Matter of fact, I met my wife over there. You never forget the ones you missed, or the ones that you have met and died. You never forget those people. It has taught me that regardless of what I do in life, if I fail, I still learn something. And it may not be to do that again, but you still learn something. I have an American flag here that was given to veterans. It's a 48 star flag that was given to veterans and soldiers going overseas. And I'd like to unfold it, if I may. This actually belonged to my uncle. There was a sailor, and he was on the USS Salt Lake, and he gave this to me before he died. Well, anybody that goes into combat never comes back the same. They never will be the same as you knew them before they went in. I've seen people demonstrating about a military funeral, and I think that's wrong. It's absolutely wrong, because when you're in the military, you go where they send you, not because you want to go there. You go because that is a job that you have to do. One of the programs that we have with the VFW now is that we were volunteered to go into schools and talk to the young people about our experiences. And it is very, very good now to see these young people, grade school kids, walk up and say, "Thank you for your service." And that means a lot. People in the United States seem to have a very, very short memory. And I think the American public needs to go back to learning the history of the world and the history of the cultures and bring that culture forward. Because if it wasn't for veterans, we would not be here today.
That's really the best way for kids to learn, is by hearing about history from someone who lived it, don't you think?
Yeah, and kids of all ages. You know, every spring I get the chance at Regis University to teach a course called Stories from Wartime. And veterans from wars from the Spanish American, from World War II through today, relate their stories, their personal firsthand accounts. And the kids are so touched by it, they'll often write that it was a life-changing experience to hear those stories.
Wow.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, World War II veterans, we're losing them.
Yeah, we're down to less than 1 million. 16 million wore the uniform during World War II. Less than 1 million survived a time doing what the enemy couldn't. And it makes it just so important now to capture those stories.
The Colorado Freedom Memorial is really serves that purpose.
Yep, on those glass panels, we preserve the memory of nearly 6,000 from Colorado who were killed in action since we became a state. On our companion website, we have information, biographical information as we know it. Photographs of many of the fallen are there, so that their stories will be preserved and they won't be forgotten.
I've interviewed a lot of veterans, and whether it's a nurse who was in a burn unit in Vietnam or someone who was in combat, hand-to-hand combat, even on the front lines, they all have in common this love of the United States of America and are willing to do whatever it takes to protect our liberty.
A little bit different interviewing veterans, isn't it?
Yeah.
Humility.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
They are all inspiring, their families, and they've all had different stories, and it's just fascinating.
It really is
I
fun
can't
to
get
hear.
enough of it. All right, well, on that note, you can't help but love the energy from Jim Kirst, an Air Force veteran for 24 years.
I'll tell you, his positive can-do spirit, well, find out for yourself. It's everywhere.
I joined the Air Force in 1981, shortly after I got out of high school, and then learned a whole bunch about electronics and avionics. The Air Force was the technology leader. You saw the aircraft, you saw the F-16. They were just getting the B-1 on. You had President Reagan in the office, and he was, the man. And just motivated me. That was where to go to use the technology and be a part of what was up and coming. They sent me to Dover, Delaware, to work the biggest United States airplane, the C-5 Galaxies. And they were still a fairly new aircraft at the time. They were made in the late 60s, early 70s. They had some of the most amazing electronics and avionics on that aircraft. And that's what I got the opportunity to work, was the avionics, electronics. And I was one of the people that could chase wiring problems within the airplane. What do you do when you swap a box and it doesn't get fixed? And that was a challenge, because we knew when the aircraft went out that all the monitoring systems, the aircraft systems were safe, and they could get their mission done, which a lot of times was bringing food to locations overseas. If that plane didn't make it, somebody didn't eat. We had such a great team of Air Force people. We had contractors working with us. We had a mission that actually made a difference, and you saw the results of what you were doing every day. The job satisfaction was fantastic. I did go through Gulf War I and Gulf War II. Gulf War I at the time, I was teaching electronics and avionics. My students were the ones that were going forward to make a difference. They were going with the fighters, and they made such a difference that Gulf War I was a true success. I did get to go participate in Operation Southern Watch in Saudi Arabia, watching the southern border of Iraq in 2000. So it was in between the wars. We were still there, policing the area and doing what we do best. It was busy. You got really good at working as a team, motivating people, and achieving total success within the team. What was our mission? How are we going to get it done? How many hours it takes? Yes, you were busy, but we got it done. And the success was our motivation. Had the opportunity to go back to the Mideast again in the spring of 2005, and I got to see the difference. I got to see them doing it right, getting people over there. Total success. I was actually in theater for the first Iraqi election in February of 2005. And it was just awesome to make such a difference. And I'm hoping to motivate people to join the team, make a difference, get involved. I believe the American people as a whole is really behind their military, behind their veterans. But don't let individuals ruin your attitude. Keep it positive, keep moving forward. Find a veteran. They'll tell you some awesome stories about how they were successful, and they'll give you ideas of what you can do. Because this is a legacy. All the way back to when this country was founded was the military. A lot of who we are comes from the military and the veterans. This is our heritage. We need to continue it, educate it, and keep it moving forward to the future.
Can't you just feel his positive energy? He should be a motivational speaker.
He really should be. Could you imagine if he was like your dad? You would always be.
Oh yeah, you would join the military.
You would.
And he saw so much in Iraq, being
Yeah.
there for the elections and just witnessing that part of history. What an amazing experience.
You know, I think that was the one moment in Iraq that so many of the military people I've talked to over the years are the most proud of, to be
Yes.
there and see them vote in that election and have their purple fingers, and yeah.
Well, he's a great example of one of the non-combat jobs in the military. There are so many of those.
You know, we talked about that a little bit, you and I earlier. It's about like a 1 to 10 ratio where one sees combat, it requires 10 to support that person, right?
Equally
in
important,
combat.
those jobs.
Totally. And so often veterans will say, I'm not really a veteran because I wasn't in combat. No, yes
Disagree.
you are. Yes you are.
Yes, you are. Well, finally, we have the story of Ed Knox. He's been a part of the Civil Air Patrol, the Air Force ROTC, was drafted into the Army, and later signed up for the Navy Reserves.
Yeah, he's a great friend of mine. He's going to share one important life lesson. And across the world, all humans are more alike than we may imagine, even in combat.
I went in the Army on the 1st of March of 1969. So I went to Vietnam as a buck sergeant, E5, in the infantry, as an infantry operations and intelligence specialist. That means I was a reconnaissance. I was on a recon team. And our mission was to gather intelligence about the enemy and do the best we could, of course, to not engage the enemy, but rather to get information about the enemies. I was fortunate enough that I didn't personally become involved in a firefight. However, I did catch malaria. And while I was in the hospital being treated for malaria and ultimately recuperating, thankfully, my recon team was in some pretty bad times. And we lost some fellows. It was obviously very sad. And, you know, I guess I always felt like there was a hand on my shoulder to provide me with the opportunity of malaria. I don't today concentrate on it too often much. I'm just thankful. The people in South Vietnam where we were just people. They were just people. Even those South Vietnamese people and North Vietnamese who were our, quote, declared enemy, unquote, even those folks are just people. There was one soldier that was killed in combat. I'm talking about an enemy, and the particular story that I'm relating is about when they searched his body, they found the diary, and when it was translated, it said everything exactly the way that it could have been with any of us. A person not knowing why they were in there fighting, a person not knowing why they were supposed to hate, a person not knowing whether or not they would ever see their loved ones again, the girlfriend, wife, mama, whatever it was. And that's pretty sad, and it hits home. When I finished that tour, went to Germany for a total of 4 years in Germany, and then with the 5 years in the Navy Reserve, I would do it again. They might laugh at an old man coming, and that would help win the war, right? Their laughter would slow them down. But, you know, I would do it again today. I really do believe that this country is the best, and I've done some extensive travel. I believe that we have an awful lot of things going for us. One of the things that we said in Vietnam was, for those who have fought for it, freedom has a flavor that the protected will never enjoy. And I've kind of lived with that between then and now, because now I am a protected citizen. I do recognize the flavor of freedom because I know what it takes. None who serve for our freedom should ever be underappreciated or unappreciated. I think a veteran is a person that has taken that oath of obligation to defend and uphold the Constitution, to defend the country. It doesn't matter if it's for 1 second, for 1 year, for 1 decade, or for all of one's life, and up to and including life. But the message to the youngsters, I think, is one of be thankful that you're in a free country, be willing to help assure the future freedoms, be patriotic of this beautiful red, white, and blue.
Well said.
Very well said.
So malaria ends up saving his life.
Yeah. You know, isn't it great listening to all 4 of those pieces and hearing their stories and how eloquent they were?
Yes.
You know, the words were just beautiful about their service and what it meant to them.
And their experiences were completely different
All
from each
different,
other.
right?
Completely different.
Yeah.
Finding a diary on an enemy soldier and, you know, learning that they had so much in common, it really makes you think.
I think we kind of heard that theme repeated a couple of times in the packages about really they're not that dissimilar from us.
How do you think we as Americans are embracing the idea of patriotism? I know for me, when I first saw Saving Private Ryan, that was my first real exposure to World War II. I really did not understand what had happened.
Most people had never seen war presented like that, as real as it possibly. I was at a theater with a group of World War II veterans when Private Ryan came out, and there was a World War II veteran sitting next to me, and at that opening, at the closing scene, or towards the end, one of the American snipers is up in the bell tower, and the veteran next to me stood up and screamed at the screen, "Watch out, they've spot." He was drawn into that movie so much, right, that he was trying to help the guy on the screen, forgetting where he was, and it's pretty powerful.
That is very powerful. And you've had some pretty powerful moments listening to stories by vets. I'll put you on the spot. What is one that comes to mind?
You know, one of my closest friends, and a gentleman who is truly my hero, is a 93-year-old, a Japanese American, Joe Sakato, Medal of Honor recipient from here in Denver. Japanese American. His family was forced from their home in California to an internment camp in Arizona where they picked cantaloupe. And he volunteered to be in the American military because he was determined to prove he was as American as everybody that looked American. And he was in the famed 442nd Regiment, ended up receiving the Medal of Honor in 2000 from President Clinton because he wasn't awarded to him during the war because he was Japanese American, right? So that story and his life story has just been a great example for me.
Patriotism is something really we can all come together on, right? Regardless of your political views or, you know, whatever opinions you have. We can all be patriots.
You know, we went through that whole time of Vietnam when I was growing up, which really divided the country greatly, right? And you either supported them or on campuses across the country, you did not support what was going on. And I think that really put people in a closet who wanted to wave the flag, who were a little intimidated by it all. Along later comes Iraq and Afghanistan, and this is just Rick's personal opinion about this, but now we come to this generation's war, and we see young men and women dying in combat again. And we see how the families allowed us to be part of their public grief over this. And it said to us, a lot of older people at the time, 50s, 60s, you know, we didn't do it right with Vietnam. And then you started hearing welcome back, and you started seeing that outreach to Vietnam veterans to say thank you. And so I've always viewed it as kind of a mixed gift of Iraq and Afghanistan. Maybe the legacy of the fallen is they've taught us how to grieve.
Yeah, it really changed the tide
It did.
of the
It
way we
did.
all think. The great thing about the Colorado Freedom Memorial, too, is that it is equipped to add names. This will just be a long legacy.
We will be out there next May for our second anniversary at the memorial, and we will unveil about 200 new names that we've discovered since we dedicated the memorial. We knew military record keeping changed with every conflict we were in, and as information was updated, perhaps the name was misspelled or omitted or, you know, human error. So we knew we had a ways to go even when we dedicated the memorial. So 200 names will be added next May as we continue to try to put together the most accurate accounting there is.
We're both from Aurora. Aurora is a wonderful military city.
Yeah.
Is that why you thought to put the memorial in Aurora?
Yeah, it was. It really certainly was one of the main reasons. It seemed like this was where it belonged. You know, Buckley to our east, named after John Buckley, an aviator in World War I who gave his life. The Fitzsimmons Army Medical Center, Lowry Air Force Base, Francis Lowry, who's buried at Fairmont, who was downed behind enemy lines in his airplane in World War I. I go out, and Blondie was his nickname. I stop at Fairmont every now and then, and I go to his gravesite just to hang out and let him know we've not forgotten him or any of the other 1,001 that are honored on the memorial from World War I.
Yeah, Aurora is full of history,
There's
isn't it?
lots of it.
Rick, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. We hope that this show, if nothing else, prompts people to reflect on the cost of our freedoms and thank a vet, right?
You know, yes, thank a vet, and however is comfortable for you, and you know, the veteran will be humble about accepting that thanks, but I can assure you that it will mean a great deal to them.
Agreed. All right, thank you so much, Rick.
Pleasure being with you.
That is all for this edition of Dateline Aurora. I'm Wendy Brockman. You can join us anytime online at youtube.com/The Aurora Channel. We would like to leave you with a few helpful links to get more information about veteran services here in Aurora.